That's it. We'll work for food. Let's go. I did. How to get the rest of it? There you go. All right.
Okay, call the meeting to order. First order of business. First, I'd actually like to introduce Chief Master Sergeant Thomas with us. He's in the 71st Security Forces Squadron at the base, and he's representing the base tonight, but I think it's his first meeting, so join me in welcoming the Chief, please. Item number 2, Commissioner's request to discuss any item of concern on the rescheduled regular session agenda of March 16th, 2021. Oh, pardon, before we do that, we'll do a roll call.
Commissioner Allen. Present. Commissioner Norwood.
Here.
Commissioner Ezell.
Here.
Commissioner Waddell.
Here.
Commissioner Stallings.
Here.
Commissioner Funk.
Here.
Mayor Pinkerton.
Here. Okay, now item number 2. At the Commissioner's request, discuss any item of concern on the rescheduled regular session agenda of March 16th, 2021. Okay, seeing none, we'll go to study items. Item 3.1, discuss the 2021-2022 budget calendar.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. This is what we have as tentative dates for our upcoming budget meetings.
Can you remove your mask during this part?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Better?
Yep.
We'll start on May 3rd. That will be at a study session at 5 o'clock. And then we will move to May 5th, which is or May 6th, which is the Thursday. We have a special budget meeting for that. And right now we have the 11th listed, but we could move it to the 13th. That's up to your availability. It will be also another special budget meeting. We'll also have the budget hearing on that evening. And then our tentative approval for the regular meeting on the 18th at the regular session. If we need to have another meeting, we could possibly have it the 20th, so you might keep that in mind. Or if we need to, we can go to the June 1st. What we like to have it as early as possible in May, just because of our deadlines that we have in June, just to get the budget uploaded into our system, and that 30-day approval date that we need to have before our fiscal year starts. Any comments or questions?
Well, I see one possible issue. On 6 May, I think we're trying to put together a new commissioner orientation with OML. It'll be a Zoom meeting that's going to last from like 8 to 5. So I'm not sure I'm going to roll them right into that.
Why are you putting them through that? That's just unkind.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty rough day to move right straight into that. So I don't, can we look and see if we can find another date for that?
That's possible. We can possibly use the next Tuesday meeting, move that to the Thursday, and then we could have the special meeting on Tuesday, that following week on Tuesday, Thursday.
So that'd be the 11th and the 13th? Yes, we can do that if that
Okay,
works best for you.
good, thank you. Orientation's going to be on 6 May. It'll be for the 3 new commissioners. And I'd like to invite the existing commissioners who's already been through the training and myself to attend as well, because my thought is, while it's a little difficult to go through, I think I've always learned more the second time through a class than I did the first time. So I think it's good for all of us to do that. So I'm trying to set that up, but for sure the new folks have to go. And I'd like to offer that opportunity to the commissioners that will be remaining on.
That's fine. This was just tentative, so
No.
whatever your availability is.
Good, thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Item number 3.2, Call Lake Water Supply Project Update.
Thank you, sir. We're here to give you a quick update on where we stand on this and the progress we've made to date. We'll basically go through the schedule, the things that we've done in the recent, since the last time we've been in front of you, and what's left to do. Eric?
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor, Eric Flady, Garver. We've been really busy since the last time we visited in January, moving forward to get Garney in the hopper, ready to do some work here. So I'm going to go through our standard slides here so you can see the quick status update. And where we're at today is certainly in the bidding solicitation phase and heavy in doing permits. Just a reminder on the infrastructure and the major infrastructure components that we're building. Thank you. Starting out at Call Lake, you have the intake pump station. Then you have 70 miles of 36-inch to 30-inch raw water transmission pipeline. Next, just north of the township of Garber, you have an intermediate pump station that brings the water into the west side of Enid here with the new water treatment plant. Once that water is processed for potable drinking, it'll be moved down the line through the Chestnut water main into your existing distribution system. And this is what it looks like on the map. So again, just Call Lake up at the top right. Moving down across 8 various pipeline segments, most of those averaging about 10 miles in length. There at the Garber pipeline alignment in Township of Garber is that intermediate booster pump station to the water treatment plant, and then a Chestnut water main. Swan design, last time we left off, we had a couple of them that were 100% complete and ready for going to permitting. Now all design is complete. The only one that has not been sent to DEQ for their review and their permitting is the intake pump station. That will happen anytime now. The other 4 major infrastructure items for the pipeline segments, pump station, water treatment plant, Chestnut, are currently with DEQ for permitting. We have been communicating with them weekly to resolve any issues they may have and technical questions to answer those. So we look forward to having those permitted very soon. Moving on to permits. So last we spoke, we had just received the Section 404 permit for wetlands from Tulsa District Corps of Engineers. We now anticipate receiving the Section 408 permit from Tulsa District Corps of Engineers as well at any moment. There are 8 ODOT road crossings that we're acquiring permits on. One of them has been approved. The other 7 I anticipate being approved by ODOT Division 4 this week. For DEQ permits to construct, which is the previous slide there, there's 11 total DEQ permits that are required. One of those for pipeline segment 8 up at Call Lake has been approved. The others, again, Most of them have all been submitted except for the intake pump station. So we do expect to start getting some, turning that circle green with approved DEQ permits to construct. Next, you've got railroads. So there's a total of 3 railroad crossings across the pipeline. There's 2 BNSF and 1 Union Pacific. Those permits should be submitted at any time now. The paperwork and drawings are complete on those. We've coordinated with them to make sure we meet their requirements up front. So we don't foresee any setbacks in obtaining those 3 railroad permits. And then last are the county road crossing permits. So as a reminder, there's 4 counties that 70 miles cross with a total of 63 county road permits. So those permit packets are being put together and we're looking forward to getting started on them shortly. Moving on to land acquisition. So last we spoke on the pipeline in January, this slide hasn't changed. Out of the 230 total parcels, there are 18 parcels in bridge, but we wanted to focus in a little bit for you on those 18 bridge parcels tonight. So 6 of those bridge parcels are with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. We are in good discussion and negotiation with them. They've been very cooperative and helpful. I think it's just given them the patience and time to work through their processes. But we've answered all their questions and have had some meetings, and it all looks in good order. The next 3 are with the commissioners of the land office with the state. So that one is being handled and supported by city staff. And then the last 9 there that are with city staff are bridge parcels that are just awaiting additional action necessary to get those approved. But that action is moving forward. And then last, as of last weekend, we started making contact with the 25 various landowners across the 3-mile stretch of Chestnut water main to start discussions with them for obtaining some temporary easements and a little bit of additional right-of-way. Otherwise, most of Chestnut is within existing city right-of-way. And with that, I'll hand it on to David Burkhart.
Thank you. Concurrent with the design and permitting aspects that Mr. Flaherty reviewed, the CMAR process has continued. The primary phase that we're in now is in the procurement phase, where we solicit bid packages for vendors and subcontractors to submit their proposals. I believe the last time we met, we'd received solicitation set 1. We recently received solicitation set 2 last week. That went very well. We're currently in the process of beginning to update the contract with the ODEQ permitted drawings to incorporate those into the contract for construction. We have an anticipated construction start date. We're still looking at the spring of 2021. So here, right around the corner.
Okay, one of the things that we have to make sure that we get done is that we have the necessary QA, QC processes going on as we're going through construction. And what we've laid this out is we've made Garney through an independent contractor, and I will hold that contract, be responsible for 100% of those testing articles and items. And then Garver will have folks out there on the line during construction doing construction observation and pulling an additional test when they see something that they want to test. And so effectively, you know, Garney is responsible for 100% of the work and making sure the testing gets done to the spec. And then Garver's responsible for the 10% random sampling, if you will. And so what you'll see in the future is that we'll be coming forward with a couple of contract changes to make this happen. But as of this time, it looks like these things are in budget. And the steps that we need to take before we get done and get into full construction, because we will start construction before we get all of this taken care of, is we'll take the permitted plans, put them on contract with Garney Construction. And it's anticipated from what we've seen so far that that design progression will fall within that $2 million budget that we put in our baseline budget for those design changes. Then we'll add the testing QA, QC activities and get those on contract. And it looks like those are going to be close, but it'll be close to the budget, but we're pretty comfortable with it. I am anyway. And then there was the question that we talked about a while back with regards to upgrading the voltage level at the intake. I'm not real sure it's time to do that at this point. As much as I'd really like to get that done and get it behind me, pay that bill now as opposed to later, I need a little bit more information before I can make a recommendation to you on whether we should move forward with that. The good news is we got notification from the Army Corps of Engineers, and our storage contract fee will be just a little bit north of $5 million, which is a little bit less than what we originally budgeted. And it'll be $5 million roughly short of what we have in our rebaseline budget. So financially, we're looking really good. This is a good place to be when we're starting construction. And so the question is managing those risks between now and what the team and each of us have our own different opinions on what the high risk items are before we think about letting loose of any of that management reserve, if you will. Any questions?
Yes, sir. One question, Chris. Do we have a percentage of the overall contract in the budget for just in case we run into any unexpectancies as far as change orders?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Okay. We have, with the information that we got from the Corps of Engineers, we have that $5 million, which is roughly 2%. That's in a management reserve. That means it's on our side of the contract. And Garney Construction has about a 2.5% construction reserve, which is in their cost of work. And so that's our reserves.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir. In fact, you answered the, I was going to ask you who would that fall on, but you already answered it.
I like them on my side of the table, to be honest with you, but
I'm pretty sure Gerald does too.
any other questions?
Chris, the $5 million water storage fee begins when, continues how?
It is a one-time fee to acquire our prorated share of the bucket that is called Caw Lake for the water that we have a permit for. Now, there is obviously going to be a subsequent O&M on a yearly basis that comes through, and that's really dependent on how much work they do at the lake. But historically, that's been in 150 to 250 range, 1,000.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, as the ladder shows, we're getting closer and closer. We anticipate early spring to start site preparation at the water treatment plant. And I look forward to letting you know that it's actually started. Thank you.
Okay. Item 3.3, discuss the remediation plan for the landfill and review contract documents with Sparq Energy.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. We have Wade Miller with SES and also Norm Heron with the Sparq. They are here to discuss what are the next steps involved in the Sparq contract. Okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Great to see you again. What you'll see from the presentation in front of you, we've really been working closely together since January of 2019. In that way, till today, we were together with the presentation that we made to you December the 15th. So the goal of this presentation is to walk you through some of the next steps, some of the work that's happened to date, while also previewing some of the work that we expect to happen in the future and answering questions on the project. So at a high level though, before I go into this timeline, you know, what we're here to discuss and what this project is, does three main things. Number one, it's emissions reductions coming from landfill methane that happens with decomposing waste that has methane included. That's all for this with this project. Secondly, you have ODEQ compliance, which is really the reason that this was an idea to present to you as a city. Thirdly, there's a revenue potential that comes in when you take that gas and you send it to market. So again, our presentation really stands for those three things in a way that brings no cost to the city, allows Sparq and our team and companies like Wade's to install a gas collection and control system, a gas upgrading and conditioning system, and then 1,000 feet of pipe that goes from your landfill to the One Oak line. So our agreement, the one that's in front of you and your city attorneys, really considers a lease, an easement, and a landfill gas rights agreement. So we'll go through these slides here. The first one that you see here, phase one, and we can thumb through this in front of you here. At the beginning, there was a request for qualifications on the methane control system. The city opened that up in January of 19. Our colleagues at SCS submitted a qualifications proposal. Then the city moved from there to an actual formal RFP. In the RFP setting, the city opened that in March 25th. SCS responded on the 16th. From there, the conversation began of what options are available for the city to meet your requirements of methane. So really the born on date there is June of 19. So that's phase one. Some of the work that went on that your city engineers, your landfill operators, everyone in your agencies really took this on first front. What are we gonna do? Well, since Sparq was involved, and that's your second page here, we've gone through an introduction to your city and your staff back in March of 20. Then you'll see a big gap that took place, and we know things that were out of our control and moving the project forward. But in that first meeting in March, we discussed these opportunities. Today, you have a mountain that's emitting methane that can be collected, treated, and made pipeline quality. And that's the conversation that's happened since then. So we came to the city manager, came to city staff, and presented that. You'll see our presentation to you on the 15th. And what's happened since the 15th? Well, four things. Number one, we provided a royalty calculation memo. How do we calculate our royalties and what math goes into that? And how do we attribute percentages of gross royalties? And how does that formulaic approach take place within the agreement? We presented your city staff a legal agreement that considers a landlord-tenant relationship where there's obligations on us to be responsible for maintenance of the well field. I think that was a question that we had when we were together. If someone goes through one of the wells of the 53 that are installed, it's something at a Sparq cost to update and replace. We've also come to you now in this meeting. So if I go to the third page, you know, some of the next immediate steps, what's left to happen before we have a real project, you know, and some of the things that I would describe there are standard development steps that you've probably heard from other presentations, whether it's an apartment complex or a new subdivision. We would go through site survey, we'd go through site geotech. We would then determine an actual right-of-way piece of the 1,000 feet on your land without crossing any third-party land. We would make a determination on, is it 53 wells or is it 60 wells? What's going to lead to the most yield? What's our section distance between each well, and what's the depth of cover that we need? And that's a design question. We have a conceptual idea of the well field design, but we need to come back and research for that. We would come back to you, see that fifth circle there, city approval, working with your city staff on our design. Did we place things in the right place? Did we ensure that we were going out of our way to ensure that your compactors and the people loading and unloading trash is undisturbed and uninterrupted? From there, we would do our technical prediction on how much gas production is present. We have a sense today what that number is. We're going to come back to you and say this is after further due diligence within our conditions precedent. We come to you and say this is the number of gas production that's present. I think there was a question on the oil field side of the gas sale. Well, we know that One Oak is just a transportation company taking the gas to the OGT pool. At the OGT pool, we've worked with 3 firms that have given us firm offers to purchase the transport of this gas, and we would enter into that agreement for the purchase of our gas. And then finally, we would go through the final steps of conditions precedent, which is again, in our agreement, outlined as not only location checkoffs, but also ensuring that we have all permits in hand. So when those 8 steps are completed, we have a notice to proceed. We begin the work of the collection system, we begin the work of the gas upgrading, and we begin to work the pipeline. So if I was asked the question today, how soon are we? Well, it's a question I'd pose back to you. It's a city attorney question, with your city attorneys working with our team to complete that conversation on the agreement. And then at that point, we're in a position to begin work that I would say that July 4th would be a time to celebrate of 2022, of having a place in service that's collecting that gas, bringing the royalties to the city, capturing the methane that's being emitted, and also meeting your compliance requirements that you have with ODEQ. So Mayor and Commission, I'll stop there and see if you have any questions for me.
I'm sorry if you've already addressed this issue in previous meetings, but if, can you give me an example of a Sparq Pure project? If area residents said, yeah, it all sounds good, but does it really work out that way? What might you point people toward?
Yeah, there's quite a few examples. You know, first I would say that in Oklahoma, there's only 3 landfill gas collection projects in the entire state. So you'd be number 4. Nationwide, there's 125 projects. Out of those 125, I'd say about 3/4 of them are landfill gas projects that we're going to power, not to gas. For our company, I would send you to Sallisaw, Oklahoma, where we've worked closely there with the city to enter into an agreement similar to the one we presented to you. There we have our identified landowners that we're acquiring easements from, and that's the process we're going through now. Unlike you, where it's all municipally owned land, there's private third-party landowners that we're working with. I'd also probably point you to a couple other landfills in the area that were also in the same conversation. Sparq's also involved, if you wanted to zoom out, in the wastewater treatment space, as well as collecting methane from the agriculture space. So there's signed agreements we have with dairy farmers and pig farmers that have allowed us to go through these same exact steps. So I think Wade, though, can definitely speak maybe a minute or two of some of the other collection systems you have in the city that are similar to the ones here.
I mean, from an experience standpoint, we can definitely have those conversations. For example, in Sand Springs, Oklahoma, American Environmental Landfill, it's a privately owned landfill, but yeah, one of the largest in Oklahoma. We went to work with them probably about 10 years ago and brought in a developer to capture the landfill gas and generate electricity with it on that site. And similar to everybody, I mean, it's always it sounded too good to be true. But similar to City of Enid, their bigger objective was environmental compliance. Since we've installed that gas system, they have maintained environmental compliance at the perimeter to where we no longer have exceedances at the perimeter with the methane. So they have achieved the compliance and also seen a royalty from that gas collection system, similar to the type of layout that Sparq is proposing to do here, where they design, build, and construct a system. We've also fixed and started a project for waste management at East Oak Landfill in Oklahoma City with the energy plant there as well. And again, we've had those conversations with other entities in Oklahoma as well, and we can provide references for those as well if you'd like.
Thank you.
I'll mention one exciting project that's not too far away. So if you went to Guyman, Oklahoma at Seaboard, there you have a pressure swing absorption technology by a company called Biofirm, which is a similar firm to the one we would use in terms of technology. The company who constructed that project and the company who engineered that project is the same company we would use for our project here. Unlike what you have here with landfill methane, that's a little bit disparate in the amount of gas and what type of gas quality. There it's covered lagoons, taking the methane from covered lagoons, processing it up, treating it. And that equipment itself is the same equipment that Guyman has that would have here at Enid.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right. Okay, item 3.4, discuss a proposed ordinance regarding electric scooters in support of a new bird scooter business planning to establish in the City of Enid. Carol.
The agenda item outlines what the ordinance is. It defines electric scooter, and it indicates that they can ride on a roadway as long as the speed is no greater than 25 miles per hour. The electric scooters need to have lights. Now, this ordinance would apply to electric scooters that are owned by Bird and rented, and electric scooters owned by residents. Then the rules of the road are outlined. If they are riding on a roadway, they would need to wear a helmet. And I added in a section about parking, that they can park in bicycle racks, designated electric scooter locations, which there aren't any right now. Parking spots for motorcycles, I don't think we have very many, but maybe they'll, we will, or on private property. After talking with Mr. Waddell, I added in that electric scooters should not be left in the right-of-way for longer than 24 hours. And if left in the right-of-way, they should not be on the roadway or the sidewalk. And that the rented electric scooters should be picked up for maintenance, service, charging, relocation within 36 hours of the completion of their use. Now, Bird wanted 48, but I reduced it to 36. Okay, then Mr. Gilbert suggested that we allow the scooters on the trail system and on sidewalks. And I have indicated that they must give the right-of-way to pedestrians and persons in wheelchairs. And the state of Oklahoma has decided that electric scooters do not have to be registered with the state, nor do the operators of electric scooters need to possess a driver's license or comply with the vehicle insurance or financial responsibility. So they don't have to have insurance, casualty insurance on the scooter. Now, the Bird scooters will have insurance, and I don't actually know whether the Bird scooters will allow someone who doesn't have a driver's license to rent one of theirs. They have to obey the traffic laws when they are on streets, and it carries, if it passes tonight, it carries a penalty of $100.
Carol,
Yes.
my question is, as far as the roadway, will they travel on the gutter near the curb, or are they going to be able to just travel right out in the middle of the roadway where vehicles are traveling?
Good question. If, and we do not have many, but we have a few, if there is a bike lane, then they should travel in the bike lane. If there isn't a bike lane, then they would travel, and there are 2 lanes, they would travel on the right lane, unless they're getting ready to make a left turn. But, and I suppose, people who are driving down my street has a very, very nice shoulder. They could do that for sure, but they don't, but they can be in the lane of traffic.
Okay, because my concern with this is, you have individuals, you're in a car protected, and that'll just ride up on your bumper. I can only imagine what that's going to be like with someone on a little motor scooter. That's a big concern of mine when I was reading this. Just imagining, someone riding on one. They're fun. We've ridden on them in Washington, D.C., but I never did see anyone like just out in the middle of traffic. When I go to Dallas, they're all around downtown, riding on them around downtown, but not out in the middle of traffic. And I'm just thinking about 412 and 81, Garriott and Van Buren. I would hate to see one just get out there in the middle and slow traffic down. You get someone impatient and just doze them over.
They would not be, the speed limits on those highways are too great. So they wouldn't be on those highways. They would be confined to parking lots and sidewalks.
Right. And I'm not trying to be negative, but a lot of time you have people that won't comply, you know, with the laws and the ordinances. And if we get individuals that don't comply and they just get out there and just ride along, you know, are we going to create a problem, or what will we put in this ordinance to be able to kind of control that or prevent that from happening?
Well, if they're on Garriott or Van Buren, they would be subject to a $100 fine.
Okay.
And frankly, probably, you know, they could also be subject to people thinking they were a bit crazy, depending on, you know, if it's 5 o'clock traffic. Yes.
They had mentioned previously that there would be like a geofencing that would restrict where they were going to be. Have we determined what area we will allow that? I mean, does it go out to the mall? Does it go out to Walmart? I mean,
I don't know.
Go out to Vans?
I can answer that one, Carol. We have not determined that yet, Commissioner, but we would do that going forward if this does go forward with Bird. And I know that they'd be very receptive because there are areas that we would not want the Bird scooters to go. One of them is Vance Air Force Base, so we would want to put a perimeter around that. And what Carol was saying is that the ordinance says you can't have them on streets where the speed limit's more than 25. And absolutely, if you want to change any of this, you can. The sidewalks that Carol said that I wanted to put in, if I get on one, I'll probably be driving on a sidewalk. And you're exactly right, Commissioner. It doesn't matter what we say on some things because people will drive them all over the place.
And the 25 limit is in state law as well. So we could reduce it, I suppose, but we don't have the authority to have them be on a street that's over 25.
One more, just a question to this. With the technology, do they have the means to be able to shut them off? Say if there's a perimeter set up to where if they go to a road that's more than 25 miles an hour, it would automatically shut off on them to prevent that or not?
I don't know. I don't think so. I do know that if they go past the area, she told us at our last study session that if they were going outside the area that they're allowed, that it would stop and that they would have to turn around. I don't know if, I assumed that was a circle around the area and that there could be some streets that were over 25. I don't know specifically.
We will work specifically with Kate Shoemaker, and I think she's already signed somebody else who was on the slideshow to work with. Natalie from Main Street's here, and she tells me they have the capability to put fences around some of those streets, so we would ask them to do it. I just know that probably if we get them, I'm going to see if we can get a couple at City Hall, because I'll probably won't take them across Garriott downtown. So hopefully we'll allow for that with the fence. But yes, Commissioner Norwood, I think we can put some safeguards in there, maybe with some of the geo fences that are capable.
Generally, in state law, if you are crossing a street that is a higher speed limit, you can cross, but you can't drive on it. So presumably they would allow you to cross from City Hall to the other side, but we could always put the scooters at the fire department, if not.
Is there a maximum amount of riders listed in the ordinance?
A maximum number of riders. There can only be one rider per scooter. No, and they can't attach on. That's in the rules of the road 614.2. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Carol. Two questions. One, does the city physically take possession of the scooters, or is that handled by the private contractor or Natalie?
Well, under regular procedures, it wouldn't be Natalie and it wouldn't be us. It would be their contractors.
It would be Bird, and they would hire,
Yes.
they've hired a fleet manager. I don't know who that is. But if this goes through, that person would be responsible for checking on them within 36 hours and recharging them and taking care of issues. It would definitely not be the city. But I think that also in the contractor's indemnification for the city that Carol can talk about in case there are accidents.
There is an exception. If they're abandoned, in the right of way or in a dangerous place, I would assume that the police department, good or bad, would pick them up and take them probably to wherever they take things like bicycles and stuff that are put in the wrong place. So, but that is not the rule. That would be the exception if something falls through the cracks.
Second question. What would be the city's practical liability if a scooter hits an uneven sidewalk or a rough pavement?
Well, the person in the scooter could file a tort claim, and then it's whether or not if the sidewalk or the uneven pavement is a problem and we had sufficient notice to get it fixed, there would be liability except for this indemnification. If there isn't, if it just happened a few minutes before, or and we don't have notice of it, there probably wouldn't be liability.
I think this would be one of those that we try it, there's going to be some growing pains, and we may have to come back and tweak it a couple times. But this isn't set in stone. It's not like if we pass this and something doesn't work that we can't ever come back and fix it. I mean, this is going to be one of those where I think it would be useful down the road after we've had these scooters on the road for 6 months, that might be a good time to come back to the city council and give an update on what complaints have been made by either business owners or riders or to the police department, or whatever issues are hanging out there, and maybe there could be some tweaking at that time.
Take compliments too.
And there could be electric scooters now. Even if Bird doesn't come, people could be using the scooters in their, and this would provide rules if someone decides to buy one. Thank you.
Okay, that's all we have for study session. We're going to adjourn and reconvene at 6:30.